Okay, Grace, thank you so much for coming back and chatting with me. So, for folks who were not on our first conversation, haven't caught up with that yet, will you share a little bit about who you are, what you do, all the fun stuff about you? Of
Absolutely. So thank you, Heather, for having me back. It's just a pleasure. It's always lovely chatting with you, and thank you for having me back on.
course.
My name is Grace Barnick Damazo. I'm a health and fitness coach primarily for military spouses and active duty women. And I'm an active duty Navy spouse. My husband is active duty Navy, and we live in Japan. We are lucky enough that we've gotten to live in Japan for the last 5 years and hopefully a few more years to come. Um, and then I will always introduce myself as being a pet mom. That is my one of
I
my
love it.
core pieces of my personality is an animal lover and I have three adorable pets. And I'm also an athlete, an adult athlete. So I play softball, I coach softball. That's one of my passions. So if you don't find me coaching or spending time with my family, you're going to find me at the softball field, especially this time of year.
I love that. And that's everybody doesn't know the conversations we had outside of this, but so much of that you and I related on. We connected so well on so many of those things. So I appreciate you for sharing that. I adore all of those things about you. Totally relate to so many
Oh,
of it.
thank
So
you.
yeah.
Thank you.
Um, man, Japan, that's such a cool experience. I think I don't even remember. I was there for like a week. I would love to explore for longer. It is,
Yeah, and we always think about like, oh, we can go on vacation, like let's go to Bali, let's go to Fiji, let's go somewhere else. And we end up staying in Japan because there's too much to see and I feel, like I'm so glad that you got to visit, but I also feel bad that you got kind of robbed of having more time here because it is so special.
totally. I was there for a military exercise, so it definitely was not the
So you
same
really didn't get to see
situation.
anything.
No,
hmm
not really. Anyway,
Yeah, it's a
that's
really
neither
special
here nor there.
country.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I love that you get to experience that. That's so cool.
We're very lucky.
Okay, so you have a really cool concept that you're going to share with us today. You call it the 4 seasons of military life.
That's right.
Okay, so
Yes.
let's talk about that.
Okay. And I wanted to share this because when I have conversations with other entrepreneurs and also with my coaching clients,
Mhm.
this philosophy tends to really resonate. And the reason why I think it resonates so much is because we are constantly kind of pushed into feeling like we need to be on all the time. We need to be successful, profitable, taking on new challenges. We need to be launching something all the time. That's kind of what everyone who's outside of military life seems like they're doing. Constantly seems like they're pushing for more, and growth is exponential and all those things. And so when we're in military life and we're trying to strive for that, but we're banging our head up against a wall because the challenges of military life aren't conducive to that, it can feel very frustrating and discouraging and feeling like we're failing, we're falling behind. But when we talk about it in this framework of the 4 seasons, I think it really helps to take the pressure off of us and it helps us to reframe how we approach each season so that we're not burning ourselves out, so that we're um, able to strategically grow our businesses. So that's why I think it's really important as it relates to entrepreneurship. Oftentimes, I'm talking about this in terms of health and fitness, but it directly correlates with entrepreneurship. So if it's okay, I'll kind of just give you the overview of the 4 seasons and then we can kind of talk about
100%.
each one. Does that
Yeah.
work?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Okay. So I like to start the conversation talking about the summer season because that is what we all kind of are striving for. So I think it's the easiest entry point because we all kind of can relate to it. So the summer season, of course, we're not talking about calendar seasons, we're talking about periods of time that can happen at any point during the calendar year.
Okay.
But the summer season is typically um, categorized by a period of lower stress, relatively lower stress. This is when everything is working perfectly. We're in our duty station. The routines are set. The schedules are pretty routine. Things are predictable. It just feels like everything is clicking.
Yeah.
These are the times in our business when where everything's running smoothly, we're able to grow, we're just like grinding, everything's just moving good. That's the summer season. That's what we all want to strive for, right?
Yeah.
We hope for.
I hear ease and flow. So
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, things are just flowing. That's great. If only we could all stay in the summer season forever.
That would be fantastic.
I know, but it doesn't happen.
Right.
So, these also, just a caveat is the seasons don't always flow one after the other. So, I'm going to talk about them as if it's kind of like the four calendar seasons, but we know that in military life, we can have two of these seasons back to back. We can revert back to a season and push forward. So, they don't always follow this lovely four-season cycle.
Yeah.
So, after the summer season, I like to talk about the fall. Fall season is kind of categorized by like, we know that there's an upcoming change. We
Mhm.
know something is coming, whether that's a deployment or a PCS, or it could be maybe retirement, an upcoming retirement. So there's a big transition coming. We need to prepare. And just like our wild animal friends who are preparing for the winter season. They're out there kind of scavenging for food, they're packing food away, they're preparing. We as entrepreneurs need to be doing the same thing during that fall season. We need to set up our systems. This is the time to be making sure your systems are dialed in.
Mhm.
This could also be the time that setting up those systems means that you're bringing on some help. You know that it's going to be crazy and you're not going to have time. So maybe I need to bring on a VA, or I need to automate some things for the time being because I'm just not going to have the bandwidth, the emotional energy, the physical energy to be able to take those things on. So this is your preparation time. That's the fall season.
Okay.
Stress levels during this time are also on the rise. So this is also a perfect time to think about implementing some sort of mindfulness practice if you don't already have that in place. Like, this is the time to do it because once you're in the thick of the winter season, you're not going to have the time and the energy to think about adding one more habit to your plate. So that kind of categorizes the fall season. This is the preparation time. We're preparing for winter.
Makes
Is
sense.
that making sense so
Yeah,
far?
totally.
Okay, cool. And then after the fall season, if everything is falling chronologically, then we would be moving into that winter season. And the winter season, I love winter, but generally, as a general statement, we think of winter as kind of like this dark, hunker down time. That is kind of like what it feels like when you're going through, when you're right in the middle of that PCS, when you're right in the middle of a deployment and you're handling everything on your own. Maybe, I don't know, I haven't gone through a retirement, but maybe you can provide some insight on that of like the transition back to fully civilian life. Maybe kind of feels a little bit like that, like chaos.
Yeah, and so I didn't retire personally, but my husband did retire.
Yeah.
And so I think if I can speak from his perspective, I would say it's very uncertain, a lot more stress. Definitely a period where things are in flux and just a lot of things need to be done to get back to the place of more ease and flow and maybe back to the summer season. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the way that you say that everything is like chaos, uncertain.
Yep. Very much so.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And one of my clients explained it to me this way, and I have to give her credit. Lauren, she brought this to me, and I was just like, oh my God, that's such a perfect description of how I feel during those times of uncertainty.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like you revert down the Maslow's hierarchy of needs chain because you don't have stability. You don't have security. Your connections are ripped apart from you. You don't have stable connections with those people that you really relied on. So your higher level thinking decreases during those times as well. Stress is high. That's another part of that. So we can imagine as business owners, if we are trying to expand our business at the same time or we're not getting our basic needs met,
Yeah.
it's not going to go very well.
No.
We're going to be pretty miserable. And we're probably, I mean, I hate to say like you're not going to succeed. You could succeed, but at what cost?
Yeah.
So this is not the time to be expanding your business, unless you have a massive support team, right?
Yeah.
This is not the time to be taking on a ton of new clients. This is a great time, however, to be nurturing what you already have. So instead of spending your time, energy, money on expanding your business, this would be a wonderful time to be focusing on the clientele that you already have, to reach out to them, to nurture them, and just make sure you're taking care of those things. That's going to feel better for you anyway, I think, to
Yeah.
make sure that you're taking care of them because they know you, they get you, they're understanding of you, they get what you're going through. So that's a perfect time for that.
Yeah.
This is also a great time to, with what energy you have, is to kind of look at what things about my business are making me happy.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you have to do anything yet, but it's a great time to kind of evaluate during these times of stress, during these times where our higher level thinking decreases a little bit, to really look at what are the things that are giving me energy because when we're moving into the spring season, which we're going to talk about next,
Mm.
those are the things, if you have clarity on them, we can be really hyper focused on those things instead of getting overwhelmed by all the other things that kind of creep in. So it's really good to take those moments to think about what is making me happy, what is giving me energy during this time of stress, so that when we shift, we can be really strategic in focusing on those things. So winter season categorized high stress, high uncertainty, low, higher level thinking.
Mhm.
Take care of yourself. This is nurturing time. Nurture your clientele. Make sure that everything is just solid. Not a great time to be really trying to expand, take on new things,
Mhm.
take on a new course, probably, because it's going to be hard for you to do that when you're just trying to get your basic needs met.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Awesome. And then finally, we talk about the spring season, which is one of my favorite parts. It's the silver lining in being a military, within military life in general. Because after a deployment, after a PCS, maybe after you're getting settled post retirement,
Mhm.
back into civilian life, it's a fresh start. It's an opportunity to, like, a clean slate to do whatever you really want. What do you love? And so that's why we talk about like what things give you energy. You have a fresh start to really hyper focus on those things. You can leave the stuff behind that you didn't like from your past duty station or wherever you were pre-deployment, all of that. You get to leave those things behind and you get to have a fresh, clean slate to reimagine your business, focusing on those things that maybe you wanted to do in the past, but you were so inundated with the routine, so inundated with what was just the norm. Now you get to have that fresh start. This is the times in my business personally where I have been able to take on passion projects. Starting my own podcast was one of those examples. Post PCS is like, oh my gosh, now I can reimagine my work-life balance to be able to take on this new project that I've wanted to do for years and never had the bandwidth or time to do it. So this is a great time to be thinking about those things and then implementing them. So you all those systems that you had in place from the fall,
Mhm.
they're going to help you kind of um, jumpstart, or it's like a leaping off pad because you already have those systems ready, set in place that
Mhm.
you already did. So now you're even more efficient, so you can take on more. And that's kind of how the cycle goes. Of course, as I mentioned, you can have a spring and then immediately go right back into a fall. We might never get to that summer because something changes in military life, but having this concept of the four seasons, I hope anyone who's listening can understand why maybe there was a period in their life where they were misaligning their business strategy with the season of military life that they were in.
Yeah.
And by having that season to kind of think about, okay, that's why it wasn't working. I needed to have a different strategy. It takes a little bit of the pressure off of themselves that, like, it wasn't me. It wasn't that my business wasn't correct. It was just that the season of military life wasn't conducive to me being able to, push during that season. that all make sense?
It does. And
I
I want to
hope.
pause here for a second and invite anybody who's listening to this. I have a like really curious, I have a very specific question. When is the last time for anybody who's listening that you went into a summer season in your business? Because I
Hmm.
have a guess that that's probably the least visited season in business for almost all of us, probably
Hmm.
because of something you mentioned earlier, like the go, 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 the hustle, the not knowing how to turn off, the pressure to be doing more and more and more all the time, the keeping up with the Joneses, so to speak, which
Yeah.
by the way, that that saying tickles me more than it used to because I am a Jones now. I'm like, nobody's trying to keep up with us, so I don't think that even makes sense. Um, but yeah, I mean, I am very curious. When is the last time that you visited a summer season? I'm
Yeah, and
gonna
that
get
is a
to that
great question for people
conversation.
because now that
Yeah.
you're asking and putting it out there, I'm thinking to myself, like, yeah,
When's the
it
last time
is
I went into a summer season?
rare,
Yeah.
but we think that that's where we should also always be.
Yeah.
So there's some
Well,
dissonance there, huh?
yeah. Yeah. I also wonder for those of us who can identify when we've been in the last summer season, to what degree did you really make use of it with the ease and the flow and the allowing for rejuvenation or whatever else that comes with that season? Like for how did you really make it work for you? Did you use it the time to its full extent? These things just they really intrigue me.
And you're absolutely right because I'm thinking about, okay, yeah, there was a time when I was crushing it, but I also was exhausted. Like I couldn't make it to Thursday evening every week without passing out on the couch because I was exhausted. So my work-life balance was also off. So
Yeah.
if I ever had that in the future, I hope that I would have learned my lesson and be a little bit smarter about it. But yeah, there's definitely times of success in the past, grinding, flow, all that stuff,
Yeah.
but also at what cost?
Exactly. I mean, I think you're going to get deeper into each of the seasons. Is that right? Were you going to go a little more in
We can
depth?
go a little bit deeper. I think just having that framework is helpful. I
I
hope that just
definitely
kind of
think so.
thinking about that and maybe hopefully I gave enough description. You could tell me, Heather, if I gave enough description to be able to help people kind of place themselves in what season am I in currently, and does my business
The
align with that?
I think so. The way that I understand, yes, but I don't want to either make assumptions either on other people's behalf. So I'm going to go back and encourage people if you have questions, if this is you're not quite sure where you land or what that looks like or want a little bit more detail, leave it in the comments and we are going to come back to the
Oh, I
comments and
love that.
get into that discussion. So absolutely, if it's not clear, if there's something that you're not sure how it relates to your own individual unique circumstances, by all means, ask and we'll get that question answered.
That would be awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
because the way I think might be different than the way other people think.
Oh, most definitely. We're human. We
Yeah.
all have our own approach to things and the way that we receive things. So, but yes, I will say thank you very much. I think that personally, I think that that was clear. I could relate
Okay.
to it. I could definitely imagine what's going on in those seasons of my own life, in my own, periods of business and whatnot. I even as you were talking, I'm like, oh, I'm in that period right now. So and I'm
What
thinking,
season are you in right now, Heather?
so I would say that I am kind of in a season of spring in a lot of ways. My business is, I very much serve who I serve, and that's how it is, period. I love who I serve, and I don't plan on changing that, but there's restructuring going on, and it's not hustle, it's all very exciting shifts and
Yes.
whatnot. So, yeah,
Yeah, that's totally, yeah, the spring, it's fresh, it's new, it's exciting, it's
definitely exciting
rebirth.
things.
Yeah,
Yes.
those are those feelings, like the things that make me excited and tingly, and that's how spring should feel. So you're
Yes.
exactly right.
Yes. What season are you in right now?
Well, as we were talking, I was thinking, well, gosh, I definitely was just in spring. I
Okay.
definitely feel like I was in a
Yes, because you had a
spring.
launch. We can come back to that.
Yes, but it was like a mix. It was like a wintry spring because I'll let everyone in on kind of like this is just the reality of being a business owner in military life is it was a wintry spring because we've been in the last year of uncertainty, not knowing if we were going to be able to stay in Japan or if we would be moving back to the States.
Mm.
Navy is very unique in that they have this ship schedule, and the ships are moving around the globe all the time. And
Mhm.
sometimes ships will go into dry dock. So there's a ship that will replace the current ship that my husband is on. So if any Navy spouses, anyone in Navy life is out there listening, if you haven't experienced this, I hope that you never experience this. Where we're just waiting to find out, will my husband switch to the new ship that's coming? So that means we stay in Japan, or are we heading back to San Diego with the ship that's going to dry dock? And all of these families are in this period of unknowing,
Yeah.
and all of our lives are on pause. Can
Mhm.
we make plans for our kids to be in school to the end of the school year? Can we make plans for them to be in sports?
Yeah.
We don't know. For me as a business owner, can I do a launch? Is that smart if I'm going to be moving across the globe next month? So it's just been this like constant like unknowing. So um, that's why I say it was kind of like a wintry spring of like uncertainty, high stress, but also you have to keep moving. So fortunately, I was able to do a launch, but I wish it hadn't have been as stressful. It should have been a little bit smoother. It's just one of those things. So wintry spring, I feel like I'm moving into a summer. I hope I'm moving into a
Okay.
summer.
Well, I'm excited for that part. I think you
Yeah.
just said something that and I think I'm hearing you right. Correct me if I'm wrong, but something that I wanted to highlight was I heard you talking about wintry spring, and I heard you talking about your life, and then your business life.
Mm,
So it
mm.
sounded like your winter was kind of the life stuff, like
Yeah, that's true.
outside of business stuff. And then your spring was more of your business stuff. But the thing about being human is we don't fully get to disconnect those things and put one over here and one over here. They impact each other no matter how much we try to compartmentalize and whatnot. And so that's a
Absolutely.
really important consideration too when looking at these things and trying to figure out how can you best make that season serve you is not just in business but in life because it's all going to impact the rest of it.
It's that's so true, especially as a solopreneur.
Mm,
Um, yeah, you cannot escape it. It
no.
just intermeshes, and it is challenging. So I'm not going to say I'm perfect at it. I think having some awareness of like, okay, I'm in this winter season, my stress is high,
Yeah.
things are uncertain. It does help me, but it doesn't take away the frustration. It doesn't take away um it is frustrating as a business owner to want to do more and want to grow, and you have all these ideas,
Mhm.
but also face the reality of I don't know where I'm going to be in 2 or 3 months. I need to be prepared to take care of my family. Like there's these real conflicts that I know any woman out there really, but also female entrepreneurs have to reckon with, grapple with. And
Mhm.
also, we do it alone oftentimes, and we shouldn't. We should be talking about it. Like, I'm grateful to have you, Heather, as another female entrepreneur because you
Likewise.
get what my experience is.
Mhm.
And I think it's important as female entrepreneurs not to do this alone, to be able to have these conversations that other people may not understand.
Yes. Yeah, this is, and now I don't want to get us too far off topic here, but that's such a solid point. And we've talked about, I think you and I have talked about the importance of community. I've talked about that probably a
Mm-hmm.
zillion times, but still there when I poll my audience or when one of the organizations that I'm connected with puts out information on polls that they've taken, one of the things that continuously comes up is lack of feeling of support or community to lean into for business stuff, and this is specifically military spouses. And I understand one, how incredibly hard it can be to find, I'm going to put this in quotes, but like the right community for you. Because not all communities, not all people are going to fit in all spaces. It's not all going to feel
Mm-hmm.
right and like, the appropriate energy exchange and all of those things. But the bottom line is we can't do this as solopreneurs by ourselves. I know that sounds weird, right? Solo does that mean alone? No, you're not intended to be alone to do things alone. Yes, you have to be the one that does all the things in your business, but that doesn't mean you can't lean on to people for support and information and education, all of the things. So, anyways, that's
Yes.
like a little off topic, but I definitely wanted to highlight that.
Yeah, especially during those times where your higher level thinking is decreased. I
Yeah.
think those are great times to lean into other people because they see things maybe from a little bit more stable, clear perspective and can help kind of like ease that anxiety,
Most
feeling of
definitely.
overwhelm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for everybody who doesn't know, Grace and I met in one of those communities where there's a military
Mm.
spouse entrepreneur community that we connected through. And there's a number of them out there. So if you don't have a community, you don't know where to look, you can reach out to us, drop it in the comments. Let's have the discussion. I'm all about, opening up the dialogue here and ask. Grace
Yes,
and I
and
get
they're
involved. We're
free.
here.
They're available for us.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I have made some of the sweetest friends in these communities. So,
And
yeah.
I think it is, again, I'm harping on it, but the conversations that you have with other people in the entrepreneur world is different than the conversations that you have with your friends, teammates, uh, spouse groups. They're different conversations. We can talk about things like I know if I'm talking to a friend who works a 9 to 5, their eyes are gonna glaze over when I start talking about,
Mhm.
lunches and Facebook ads and all of that stuff. Like their eyes just glaze over and they don't get it. But when I get to talk to other entrepreneurs, like we understand those conversations. Um, it's helpful for us to talk about that stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, when you can talk to somebody about anything really and know that they're not just empathizing, right? Like like I can see you over there, but I haven't experienced it, right? Empathy. But they can actually sympathize because they've been through it. They can truly relate because they've walked in your shoes or shoes that look like
Hmm.
yours anyways, somewhere along
Yeah.
the way, right? And it's a very different um level of support when you know that the person truly can see you because they've in some ways been you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it doesn't sound self-serving. It doesn't sound like, like you're trying to sell them something or talk them into something or anything like that. You're just like honest, like I had a really crappy quarter 1 or, this launch failed. Like, let's talk about it. Those are
Yeah.
different conversations for sure.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so these 4 seasons we've talked about, you're going to go through all of them at some point. You're going to kind of almost, I hate to relate it to mourning, but like it's almost like a mourning period where you're going to visit and revisit and skip and go around and come back and visit certain seasons multiple times, and hopefully much peppier though and happier than a morning season, but definitely gonna not gonna do things in order all of the time, gonna skip around.
Hmm.
But what if you were to say, if you all right, so if I were to ask you what is the absolute best piece of advice you can give people, whether it's all over for all of the seasons or you have like a piece of advice
Yeah.
for each season, what would you share?
Oh, yeah. I was just, as you were talking, I was thinking about that. So just what I'm thinking about is like systems beat anything. Systems should be in place every season. So while we talked about doing it in the fall season, I still do think that's a great season to do it.
Mhm.
I think the big thing is have them in place because it's going to make every season easier. And when I'm talking about systems, like that can be a lot of different things. Um, and there's a lot of different ways to go about it. For me, when I'm thinking about like, um, oh gosh, the Eisenhower matrix, which is there's 4 quadrants in the Eisenhower matrix. If anyone's ever seen it, you can Google it really quick. There's 4 quadrants, and the 4 quadrants are urgency and importance. So you have one axis that's urgency, one axis that is importance, and you start to categorize the tasks that you do on a daily basis on how urgent is this?
Mhm.
Do I need to get it done quickly? And how important is this? Or is this not important at all and also not urgent? And you start putting them in these fields. And I like to look at those fields because there's things that you can automate. There's things that you can eliminate. So for me, anything in that urgent, not important thing is probably something that either I can automate or probably shouldn't even be on my to-do list.
Yeah.
So I think that's really helpful to be able to figure out like what things can I automate, what things are urgent and important. That's stuff that I need to do.
Mhm.
That's the stuff that no one else can do. The urgent, not important, that's a great thing for a VA to take on. because they can do it in a timely manner, but it doesn't require you to do it. So like thinking about it in that framework can kind of help you see what things do I need to automate, what things can I automate, to be able to help just run your business more smoothly. Systems stand for save yourself stress, time, energy, and money. So like a system put in place will help you run your business more efficiently, will help you save money, will help you reduce stress, and reduce your energy output. So always think systems, no matter what season you're in.
Love it. Perfect. Okay. So, let's get ready to wrap up here.
Mm,
I'm going to ask you two questions. The last one is super simple. So I'll just leave that. Um,
okay.
do you have any final words of wisdom, whether it relates to what we're sharing today, whether it's just general military spouse support stuff, anything, any final words you want to share?
Can I share that in kind of not going into our off-camera conversations, but just how much I value women who are empathetic and understanding. And I think that would be the my kind of takeaway is surround yourself with people who care about you enough to understand that you're not going to be perfect. And you're not going to be able to, there's going to be times where you have to say, I'm so sorry, I can't get that done in time. So sorry, I messed up. That slipped through the cracks. Like, and I'm all for like, I take my business very seriously. I want to follow through. I want to have integrity. I want to have all those things. But one of the things that I've worked on in the last couple of years as an entrepreneur is to say, like, it's okay to give yourself, like, you're always going to be your hardest critic and you're always going to be the person that pushes yourself. It's so nice to be surrounded by people who are understanding of your imperfections and understanding like you're going to have the integrity to get that stuff done. So that I think that would be my takeaway is it's okay to be imperfect. It's okay to let something slip through the cracks. Your sanity, your health is way more important in the long run. And if you're surrounded by the right people, they're going to understand that you're going to pick right back up and you're going to get right back on track. So that
Yeah.
would be my takeaway.
I love that so much. I know you said you didn't want to get too much into off-camera conversations or topics, but I kind of do if you don't mind.
Mm.
So what you just shared warmed my heart because you were that person for me recently. You
And
and
you
I
were for
had,
me.
thank you. Thank you. And I think we could both like get into specifics. People are probably a little curious, so I'll share a little tidbit of my own. But you and I had it scheduled a recording, and and to add kind of insult to injury, if you will, for lack of a better way of saying it, you were already getting up at the crack of, I think this one was actually it was a late night one for you. So
Yeah,
when
that
you
was
and I
evening.
meet, because you're across the globe from me, you're either up like before the crack of dawn or a late night, definitely going above and beyond. And some we had an emergency at my house. We have foster bunnies, and one of them got very sick very quickly, and we had to attend to it. And so it was either me going, "Oh, sorry, Bun," or reaching out, which is not ever going to happen in my
No,
not on my time.
no.
Just for anybody who doesn't know, I'm a huge animal lover, so it's never going to happen. So I reached out to you, and I knew that it was a huge inconvenience because it was so late for you, and you never treated it like that. To have somebody like that in your corner is everything. Being able to reach out to the people that you have these interactions with, that you have these collaborations with, and also feeling that level of support. Not only did you say no worries, but a heartfelt message, just straight up
You already were under
words
enough
of wisdom.
stress. Yeah, like I think that's really my point is like we put so much pressure on ourselves already. I can
We do.
imagine you having to reach out and tell me like, "Hey, I can't make it tonight," while you're also trying to juggle taking care of your family and your pet. Like you put enough stress on yourself. Like surround yourself with people who
What will alleviate
are
that for
not
you?
going to, yes, exactly, who are not going to add on to that stress. That's
Yes.
really important. And you
Beautiful.
did the same for me when I felt like everything was hitting me at the same time. All good things, but everything was kind of coming at me at once. You were very understanding.
Thank you. Okay. Well, with all of that said, if you've got tears in your eyes, go wipe your tears because we next thing you need to know is how to connect with Grace because she is somebody you
Hmm.
want to be connected with. So, what is your absolute favorite way for people to connect with you?
Mm. I think the easiest way to connect with me or get in contact with me is through my website because you can find everything on the website.
Yeah.
So if you go to Fit Path Coaching, that's FIT,
Mhm.
fitpathcoaching.com, you'll be able to connect to my podcast. You'll be able to find me on social media, Instagram and Facebook. And then I also have a new workbook that I just placed on the website. So if you are interested in starting or continuing your fitness journey, there's a great interactive workbook with some workouts included in there. So if you are interested in that, that's available to you on the website right now. So you can head over there and visit and then connect with me. I would love that.
Yeah, definitely connect with Grace. She's incredible. You'll thank me later.
Oh, thank you,
All
Heather.
right, lovely. Thank you so much once again. I don't think this will be our last conversation on here, so I'll look forward to inviting you back as many times as you'll come back, but thank you for showing up again.
As long as the conversations are beneficial to your audience, it would be my honor.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Heather.
Absolutely.